Guess I'll just, yeah. Oh, thank you, sir. We open every meeting with that. Sorry, I was catching up on some email. Not my grandkids open. Now I do. Great, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have roll calls.
Mike, can you hear us?
Sure, I don't typically do those at the subcommittee level. We have Chair Bagney
Yes, present.
and Vice Chair Walter has an excused absent today.
He's absent due to as an excuse absent.
And I think the rest of the gang is here. Is that suffice, Mike?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. All right, going on to item B, public comments. The public may speak on any item not listed on the agenda at this item. Do we have any members of the public who would like to give a comment for planning and sustainability subcommittee? I mean, you're in correspondence, so
I'm next.
if you want to hold your horses.
I can do that.
Okay, all right. And is there any any written comments? Mike?
Chair, we did not have any written comments, and we aren't taking oral comments at this time online.
Great. Seeing none, we will move on to item C. And communications attachments. Does anyone like to comment on item 1?
No particular comment. It's communication from Mr. Rob Kozlowski, resident. I know he's raised questions in regards to SMART and when are they when is it anticipated that the train might be coming to Cloverdale, along with other questions, and just want to note that he's raised that in his correspondence.
Yeah, and actually I directed Mr. Kozlowski to take those concerns to the SMART board, where that's the agency that has the jurisdiction. He
Right.
also brought up an item that he sent an email in 2021 that went unanswered, and as a matter of fact, the chair at the time, Chair Supervisor Rabbit, did respond to his email, and all of that information is readily available publicly. I just like to make a short comment about the incident at the last subcommittee meeting and the subsequent council meeting. I was hoping that Mr. Kozlowski would be here so we could better understand the why and how I chair the meeting as I do. And I would just like to say that, while I acknowledge that the First Amendment of the United States grants Americans the right to free speech, many Americans never stop to think about how it operates in our everyday lives. While the First Amendment grants us broad freedoms, it's not carte blanche to say whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want. And this principle is upheld by both the US Supreme Court and California law. The regular practice of protecting speech while carrying out the business of government is nuanced, and it should be taken seriously by every elected official. It's something that I take very seriously, and I've endeavored to practice as well by taking advantage of the required training that all elected officials are required to take in the state of California. Additional training I've had through Cal Cities, and asking questions of my Cloverdale staff and my Cloverdale legal counsel, as well as the agency councils and staff and the regional boards where I have served as a board member and chair in several instances in the last 7 years of my public service. So, what the dispute I think comes down to is subcommittees, and in reality, what they're referred to often is limited public forums. We're here today to discuss items concerning planning and sustainability in the city of Cloverdale. That's what's under our jurisdiction. And the public is invited to discuss related topics under the jurisdiction of Cloverdale. At any time, and I think that actually with Linda Chafin present here and other members of the public, they know that I am readily accessible. All you have to do is reach out and make a phone call to me or the clerk, Mike Maloney, and I'm happy to meet and discuss items that fall under SMART jurisdictions or SCTA or Sonoma Clean Power and all the other regional boards that I serve on. But when I'm here chairing this meeting, I'm trying to conduct the business of the people. That's my goal, and that's what I'm gonna continue to do. And I invite anybody who wants to talk with me about matters that are not under the jurisdiction of a subcommittee to give me a call and set up a meeting. I'm accessible, and I think we might be talking about how accessible I am when Linda's turn comes up. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to the approval of the minutes from June.
Wait.
Oh, we need to go on, sorry, so we're still under C, we need to go to. Sorry about that. You know what, my glasses messed me up a little bit,
Oh,
because I'm going up and down.
I know. And I went to the line instead of the. Yes.
Exactly, everything doesn't stay in focus the whole time, so we'll move on to item C2 and Linda's correspondence. Does staff, actually, first, does staff have any questions or clarifications at this time?
Well, just to offer some,
Everybody has
maybe some
copies.
background.
It's in the packet. Yep.
Yeah, some background and perspective, particularly for members of the community who may be following this proposal and the related property proposed annexations. So this particular property that is the subject matter of Ms. Linda Chapin's correspondence in the packet is in regards to a property that's identified as under the ownership of Wings Capital LLC. The property representative for Wings Capital is Arvin Babu, and we often refer to it, that property in particular is the Babu parcel or the Babu property. This particular property currently is situated outside of the city's sphere of influence and urban growth boundary, and is situated in between existing city boundaries and another adjacent property that's being considered for proposed annexation. And so staff is looking at kind of based on council direction, a more comprehensive modification of our sphere of influence and urban growth boundary. In this case, the urban growth boundary, any modifications to the urban growth boundary require the voter approval. And so part of the discussion is a possibility of placing a ballot measure before the voters to approve a modification of urban growth boundary. So this proposal is much more significant than just one piece of property, and it involves basically the land area from the existing Porterfield Creek open space north along the western edge of the city of Cloverdale. So just kind of setting the stage in the context.
Exactly right.
And so we're still coordinating with the property of the property owners in that area to ascertain their interest in possible annexation, because that would ultimately be part of the proposed ballot measure that would have to go before the voters. And there's a lot of logic behind, I think, what we're developing and why it makes sense. But ultimately, we have to seek voter approval for it. Each one of those properties that, again, may or may not get annexed depending on the voter's decision, comes with a particular set of requirements that will be considered as part of the future development of those properties. And that includes what types of improvements would be required in terms of public improvements, sewer, water, streets, etc. But also other planning requirements, of course, in terms of what's the appropriate zoning, what are the appropriate entitlements, and then what are the other conditions of approval that may be required. And I think that's kind of where we get to the specific interests expressed in your correspondence is the interest in preserving the pond on the Babu parcel. And I think we do have appropriate general plan policy to seek its preservation. but, you know, again, it'll be part of any kind of development proposal that we review for that particular property. You know, we have to make sure we're you know, following our own guidelines, following our own requirements, and that ultimately whatever we impose in terms of conditions of approval are feasible. So I think what we've heard is strong interest in preserving the pond. There's, you know, a lot of history there. And I think there's also some city objectives besides just preserving the pond in terms of providing connectivity to the adjacent neighborhoods.
Right.
You know, is there opportunities to connect to Chablis, for example? There's you know, looking at you know, emergency vehicle access.
Got the map right here.
So I just want to say that there's a lot to consider as part of that specific parcel and its future development, but also just stepping back big picture, we still have a lot of work to do to determine exactly where we would like council to support modifying the urban growth boundary in terms and putting a ballot measure before the voters. So there's a lot there, a lot of background. I just want to kind of provide the context for
Thank you.
this background.
There's
I'm aware.
a lot of moving pieces on it. And I'm glad, you know, Alex is our real estate specialist, so I'm glad he's kind of listening to this
Yeah, this is
groundswell. And yeah, Linda I'm not gonna steal your thunder, I'm just gonna say, Linda had contacted me, and I know this is an important piece of property to Hector, and other members of the community expressed just their love and affection. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. Love and affection for this little piece of heaven.
It means
And-
all the world to me.
So yeah,
This is me right
so there
here.
you go. So I'm gonna take over when you want.
Here's property, and my house is right here, so.
So you can
So
look
I'm-
out after the pond.
I'm pleased to announce that there were 6 mallard ducks there this morning. There were only 2 yesterday.
Well, you know, I'm actually gonna stop right there because honestly, I've known Linda now for at least about a year or two, but I didn't know her biology background.
Yeah.
When we started talking about this, she kind of talked about, so you want to just tell them a little bit about
Oh
what you
my
did,
gosh,
what you
yeah.
did before you retired.
Yeah.
To
Well,
little slice of
that's,
heaven here.
yeah, that was not a little slice of heaven. I
Yeah.
worked for 25 years for the state at Atascadero State Hospital. But in college, I was a biology major, and so I've always been a naturalist and been very interested in. And in fact, it's a part of me, who I am is, you know, I taught my kids all the, you know, that's that particular type of plant, you know, and the genetic name, I mean, the names of the species and the groups and the families and all that stuff. They know if it's so anyway, I've been interested in watching the pond and in seeing the life there and watching there's in the summertime, the red-winged blackbirds are there nesting in the rushes that are right there next to the cattails. And they sing all day long, and they will every now and then there's a big giant blue heron that saunters. He's and he finds a place there. He kind of settles in, and he comes by now and then, and you know, so it's a regular thing, not frequent, but often. And so during the summer, though, he doesn't even get set down. He's still flying in, and here come the red-winged blackbirds, punking him, just beating on it, attacking. He kind of like, oh,
Like
dude,
on TV, it's like on
dude,
TV.
what?
You know, when it used to be, yeah.
Pretty soon, he kind of just goes fine, and off he goes again. Anyway, there's duck o'clock, you know, which is when at the very at dusk. About a dozen or more ducks fly in there within a span of about 10 minutes. They land, it's almost soundless, but you can just hear, it's a really beautiful sound. And then they all gather together and the whole group of them is just, and it's not quack or anything, that's just. And it's like they're talking about their days, you know, like where'd you go, what'd you eat, who'd you meet, you know. And then they all settle down up at the north end of it where it gets to be creek again. And they just nestle in those rushes up there all night long. But there's one And I'm pretty sure it's a female, because I've looked up I've listened to this, I record the sounds of the birds so I can see who they are. I know. There's BirdNet is
Oh,
the
yeah.
app on your phone,
Yeah.
and so I know it's a.
You can take a picture of them too, and it's identify
Yeah, yeah.
plants and ducks and the whole
It's a
thing, it's great.
female mallard, and so during the night, it's real quiet, and then all of a sudden, quack, quack, quack. My neighbor calls her the Joker, because it sounds like something like that, and then she'll go settle down, go back to sleep, and quack, quack in the middle, anyway. It's almost like how the roosters wake up once in a while, you know, and it's almost like, is it daylight? No, is it daylight? No. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I know, one of your neighbor, Rick Baldwin,
Rick is right next door to me,
so he volunteers a lot of his time at
Yeah.
Crystal Creek.
Rick and
In
Maria.
fact, he does.
Yes.
So,
And
it's
Val
like,
and Jonathan are out there too.
Yeah.
I've heard it from so many people on that Chablis, on that circle, that this is a really important place
It's really
to them.
important, it is.
And if we can't, and so you heard about all, that's, I wanted you to be here to
Yeah,
listen
tell
to
my
the
stories.
moving parts, but all of that is a consideration,
Yeah,
that we,
it
yes,
is.
that we need to.
I saw a baby crawdaddy. I had never seen a crawdaddy over there. He was about this big and he had come around. He was sort of out away and I thought, oh dude, you need to go back in. I went to reach for him and it was like this. And I was like, wow, okay, dude. Okay, dude.
It was how big?
yeah,
Those were full size.
I've seen I've seen kids crawdad at the river, they're out there snorkeling and they go.
Big soup.
Oh, yeah.
Hey now.
So that's, that's the piece, that's the piece that I really,
It matters to me
I
every
think
day.
everybody's got their stories, though, I'm sure everybody's got his childhood stories.
Yeah, I just got one house kid.
But I also wanted you to
Thank
know
you.
that it's story, that all these adults have
Yeah,
stories too.
Perfect.
And there is a,
And the coyotes, every now and then the coyotes come down there.
And there's a lot of boxes.
and there's foxes too.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen I saw a gray fox on, Third Street a couple of years ago, just riding down the sidewalk, so. But that's kind of what we're talking about, and, when as we're moving forward, I think that there is I don't think it would be hard to find more community support.
No, I'll help you on that.
Yeah,
But, and so I'm aware, and thank you for, clarifying that big picture for me, and I feel that my proposal fits right in. I don't feel that there's any kind of a negative, there's not a rub there anywhere, I think it'll just fit right in there. Obviously, there's negotiations that have to come to, blah, 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 blah. But I think that this is a reasonable, in fact, desirable direction to take as far as the intention for ending up with this. And I really feel that, well, I said I worked for the state for 25 years. What I know is that when things start to move at the very beginning, you really need to be involved in the process at that point in time in order to be able to steer. I used to say, I was in executive management, and so I used to say I used the asteroid method of management. And
guide the asteroid in the right direction.
you
right?
know, you're exactly right. If you wait till you can see it in the sky, it's too late. You can't do anything. But if you see it way out there, all you have to do is touch it a little bit and the whole thing changes. So that's what I'm trying to do with this asteroid that is now circling, which I'm totally in favor of. I don't have a problem with any of that. I just want to make sure that we're thinking about how we can make our city even more plant and animal friendly. It's in the, as you say, it's in the city plan. So, this direction of preserving and making sure that we have these areas for people to enjoy and to save the areas themselves to operate in I was telling Mel that I have the guy come over from the people that I bought my house from for no apparent reason. This is the last thing I promise. They built this big pond thing right in the backyard, right next to the pond. Like, why would you do that? I don't know, but it's huge and I could not get it out of there without jackhammering and having it would cost me a lot of money just to get it out of there. So what happens is that it fills up with a little bit of water during the winter. So then the guys from Marin Sonoma Vector Control come out and check it for me and throw some mosquito fish in there, put some of the, you know, the little pellets or whatever. Well, this last year, we had all that rain, pond was full. And he dipped into mine and there were some mosquitoes. Then he goes, can I just go through your fence? Yeah, because I have a back fence with a gate on it, and I never answered your question. So he can just go back there and dip right in. And he looked at it and he said, huh, you know, I'm gonna go around to some different areas and check, and then I'll come back and tell you what I found. He did, and he came back, he brought the cup back to me, and he said, look at this. There's virtually no larvae in here.
Because the pond's alive.
The pond's alive, and it's operating, and it's
How it's supposed to.
it's on this equilibrium.
Right.
It's taking care of itself, it's healthy. This pond is not just a little leftover, you know, it's living, it's a living thing, so.
That's actually good to know. Maybe we want to get that data from vector control so that if there are concerns that come up, that we've got the information. That's very helpful.
And I just wanna.
Yeah, your cement line pond is probably not the case.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the critical decisions that lies before the council is. One, whether to support modification of the urban growth boundary and put it before the voters, and. You know, I think what you're speaking to, Ms. Chapin, is the idea that the property. You know, fall under the city's purview, and I think.
Yeah, the assumption is that will have happened as far as the urban growth boundary.
Right.
Expanded in that way, and then this would come into play.
Because otherwise it would
Yeah, no, I.
fall under county jurisdiction,
Yeah.
and if for some reason it remains that way, I just encourage you to. Share your communication with the county
I will.
and Urban Sonoma, so that. You know, any consideration they give to future development proposal on the property, because it is in the county.
Yeah,
That they have your correspondence in the file, because we'll maintain it. I think it's an important piece of communication. But a lot of it's gonna hinge on, you know, getting voter approval, council support, and ultimately, you know, the property owners moving forward with, you know.
Yeah.
Coming together and
Completely
being part of
understand.
this larger project. So.
Thanks for listening,
Um,
appreciate it.
Well, I think there are kind of two options that I want the answer maybe in a future meeting is that, you know, there's the possibility of extending the urban growth boundary and the property could still be owned by the current owners, or a part of it could be put into permanent open space where there are various mechanisms to do that. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that we're aware of it, of its value moving forward, you know, in any negotiations with the landowner. And so that's like there's multiple moving parts there, because again, it's like UGB expansion, no UGB expansion. You know, what is our policy moving forward? If we do extend the urban growth boundary and they do become part of the city, then any future development that they might want to do, that would be a priority for the community, that we see that space, you know, protected in some way. So that's just why I wanted to be very clear. And again, it's like Linda really crystallized it, but I've heard about this from other people in the neighborhood who are aware of it, and then, you know, people who grew up here are really passionate about that little spot as well. And then now that we're looking at, you know, how to connect Porterfield Creek with Soda Springs Ranch. This might be a little, yeah, it might be a little piece, yeah. And so that's why I just want to make sure that it's forefront, so that, again, we're not moving the asteroid when we can see it, we're moving it when it's not that advanced. that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I love, Bruce Willis movies too. Anyway. So does that kind of give you clear direction on that, David? And if we needed to do a, a workshop in the neighborhood or in the city to kind of garner.
Just let me know and I can help in any way.
Yeah,
So I
that just might be.
tried to do something that was comprehensive and yet brief enough to go, but one page is important. Just to get your head around it, but I tried to do a lot of that research as far as looking back as for justifications.
But I just with what we're doing with Soda Springs and with, every time I walk to the city park now, I'm like, like next year, I will be able to keep walking down Second Street and walking. And I just kind of like I keep finding myself that like, that's my new route, but when I think about the Chablis neighborhood, being able to, get a bridge across the creek and they're in our open space, that adds so much value to that neighborhood as well. And so that's why I'm really interested in just, I think, being clear as early as possible, that might be a community priority. So, is there any other, I think you have, so that's kind of, we can bring that back, that would be great. Any comments from the public or? Alex, do you have any warnings for us now? Okay, great. We're just gonna get you out here hiking in a year or so to see all this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a day like this. Anyway. Okay, anything else from staff? You got some pretty clear direction on it? With that, we can move on to item D.
Thank you.
And approval of minutes for June 2nd and October 17th. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Aye, there you go. And we'll move on to item E, new business. Bay Area Housing Finance Authority. And we have a speaker for that, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Michelle, if we could promote Miss Whitman.
And is Becky gonna comment or
Yeah.
maybe is she item E2? I don't know. Well, Becky's not coming. And thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
Sure.
Thank you.
I see you earlier.
Yeah, I know everybody in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
I've gotten a call or two for me to go out and look at the trees or something that they were concerned about, so.
There's not access to that pond from the.
So just for clarification, what are we looking for right now?
To promote Michelle Whitman.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You heard us talking about it, didn't you?
I did.
So what you do is you.
Promote Michelle Whitman to panelist.
And then you just walk with.
Guys know each other,
He's
right?
rejoining.
I had no idea about the ducks or anything. I didn't know. That's amazing.
Very important people.
Oh, no, they are.
So, Madam Chair, joining us today is the Director of the Sonoma County Community Development Commission, Miss Michelle Whitman. Michelle is, we had a meeting with her today to give us an overview of what's referred to as the Bay Area Housing Finance Authority, or BAFA. Included in the packet is a PowerPoint presentation in regards to BAFA. This is going to be presented to the city managers and the county administrator this coming Thursday. So this subcommittee is getting kind of an advanced view of the presentation. This is a measure that is going to be placed before the voters in November of 2024 to decide on a proposed tax measure to support affordable housing. And there's an allocation proposed in the language to come to Sonoma County. And I don't know, Michelle, if you want to walk us through the PowerPoint, or if you want to just give a high level overview of the BAFA and what it entails for the city.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Bagby. Nice to see you. City Manager Kelly, Kevin, who's a member of the Community Development Commission's Cities and Towns Advisory Committee. At least you three are familiar faces to me. As City Manager Kelly said, Michelle Whitman, Executive Director with the Sonoma County Community Development Commission. And I'm happy to quickly run through the slides or just give a verbal overview, whatever your preference might be.
What's your pleasure, Chair?
Oh, I looked through actually, Becky, do you want us to go through?
No, I actually looked at your agenda.
Yeah, I did the reading ahead. I did the reading ahead, Michelle, so if you want to just go ahead and do a.
I am not at all surprised that you did your homework. So there will be a general obligation bond on the November 2024 ballot for the 9 Bay Area counties. It's a regional housing bond. It will be placed on the ballot by the Bay Area Housing Finance Authority, which is an authority launched by MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission. The MTC board serves as BAFA's board along with the ABAG Executive Committee. In addition to being the executive director of our Community Development Commission, I'm also on the advisory committee for BAFA. So have been working really in earnest on this for about a year now. We're getting to the point where we are doing more outreach and communication with our 8 cities in Sonoma County that don't include Santa Rosa. The unincorporated county and our 8 cities, including Cloverdale, will, assuming that BAFA passes at the $10 billion bond size, we'll be getting $282 million that we will come up with and collectively and collaboratively come up with an expenditure plan for. And we'll decide on methodology for informing our expenditure plan. And we'll do everything we can to get ready for what we hope will be a successful housing bond. BAFA is polling now and testing 2 bond sizes, $10 billion and $20 billion. And the size of the bond that is placed on the ballot will be informed by the outcome on the polling. The BAFA proceeds need to be used for the 3 Ps, predominantly for new production, but there is a set aside also for preservation projects and a 3rd P for protections. So that would be 5% of the bond proceeds for things that keep people stably housed. And a big key to the potential success of the bond is a constitutional amendment that will be on the same ballot, lowering the voter threshold for affordable housing bonds to 55%. If the constitutional amendment receives a simple majority, then the threshold for our regional housing bond comes down to 55%. Right now, a general obligation bond needs a supermajority to pass. Affordable housing in the context of BAFA is everything up to 120% of AMI. So it's not the typical tax credit limits of 30 to 60% of AMI. It has really room at the top for that. Sometimes people refer to it as missing middle or workforce housing. I usually correct people that make that particular comment that a lot of our workforce lives in deed restricted affordable housing. So all affordable housing, in my opinion, is workforce housing. But I heard from your city manager and your assistant city manager this morning that Cloverdale is doing pretty well on its extremely low and very low income affordable housing, and that Cloverdale's specific need or unique need might be more for the between 80% and 120% of AMI housing. So the county, a couple of weeks ago, I made a presentation to the Board of Supervisors on BAFA, somewhat informational, but they also approved a resolution supporting at least conceptually, the housing bond, regional housing bond. City of Santa Rosa did the same on the same day. We wanted to show that we're moving in concert. City of Rohnert Park has had a presentation. Jenna Garcia is their lead housing person, made a presentation to their council. So at some point, you may want to consider having at least an informational item on the housing bond so that your constituents know that this is a conversation that Cloverdale is involved in, that Cloverdale will have a seat at the table for, and that, you know, we're really approaching our need for additional housing inventory as a region, and we're doing it cooperatively and collectively. I'll talk about polling just quickly. There's been polling happening in the background over the past 6 months. Polling is very strong in Sonoma County for a regional housing bond. I would give some credit probably to Generation Housing, who's really doing a great job of building a housing ethic here in Sonoma County. And Chair Bagby, I know that you work closely with Generation Housing. I've seen you at several of their events. The polling regionally shows that certainly if the threshold is lowered to 55%, it's showing that the bond will pass. So I'm feeling pretty hopeful that we're going to have these desperately needed resources available to us after November 2024. One thing that I think we need to do as a region is as we engage with stakeholders, you know, really keep the rhetoric collaborative, and you know, let's have a confidence building and warming effect on the voters that are going to consider this. This is a once in several generations opportunity. We've never had resources like this available to address our housing needs here in Sonoma County, at least not over the arc of my career. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions or comments.
No, that pretty much sums it for me, but I do have a question, just in reference to today's news article and the recent articles about the mobile home parks, where the privately owned mobile home parks that are kind of de facto senior housing or affordable housing, they're, you know, threatening to, you know, sell or close them. And it just seems to me that the only way to really actually protect real affordable housing is deed restricted property. So I was wondering, is there anything in the bond measure that would make some of those mobile home parks eligible to, you know, for communities to purchase them? I know that the city of Novato actually owns their mobile home park outside of town. That's kind of their de facto senior housing. And I was wondering if there is an opportunity for either the county or the cities to, you know, purchase some of those properties and put them into deed restricted status.
You know, that's a really good question for us to ask the executive director of BAFA. Like the city manager said, she'll be coming to speak to the city managers group on Thursday. And perhaps City Manager Kelly can ask that question, or I'll be there and I can ask the question. It's I would think that would fit under the preservation umbrella. It's a little more nuanced,
Yes.
but it's certainly a way to protect naturally occurring affordable housing. And I know it's been years now, but the county helped the Blue Spruce, which is a mobile home park in West Sonoma County, helped them collectively purchase the park so that it's under like a co-op ownership now.
And some of them are owned by nonprofits, but the ones that are, you know, profit oriented, what we've seen is just in the last, you know, it's just, it's Sonoma County real estate. They kind of used to be in the outlying, less expensive areas, and now that real estate is really valuable. Like the town of Windsor has kind of swallowed up a couple of these parks, actually one that my grandfather lived in. It was very affordable when he was retired. So I think that this is something we're seeing in Sonoma County, but also I'm hearing it at Cal Cities, that we're seeing it across the state, is that a lot of the privately held mobile home parks are the real estate underneath them is becoming much more valuable, and those that are privately held are under a lot of pressure. So it may be something that could be addressed by BAFA, but it may need an additional mechanism as well. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, City Manager Kelly could pose that question. That would be really, really helpful. But and with that, I'll open it up to staff and members of the public who have any questions for Michelle or.
Madam Chair, I ask Michelle if she is so inclined, maybe just to give us an overview of the timeline going forward to this measure being placed on the ballot in November. What are some of the steps that the Board of Supervisors will have to take? And what do you maybe see? I know you mentioned presentations to or council on BAFA, and kind of bringing some community attention to this, but maybe an overview of just the process between January and November. What do you see happening during that time frame?
Sure. So one of the things that's required by the enabling legislation is that the county consults with the cities that will benefit from the allocation to our county. So we've been doing that through our Cities and Towns Advisory Committee, but we're ramping it up now so that it's more visible and perhaps more public than at the Cities and Towns Advisory Committee. We don't get a big audience for those things. We need to I know that our county supervisors will want us to do some public outreach. And so BAFA has given us some technical assistance on what a public outreach plan might look like. I've made a very early first draft of a public outreach plan that I've shared with Kevin for sure. And I'm not sure if he shared it with the city manager, just for some very initial input. So I imagine that we'll be doing the meeting and seeking advice from the cities through spring and probably into summer. The Board of Supervisors will need to vote to put the measure on our county ballot. They'll need to do that probably in June or July, because we need to have it to the elections office. I believe it's by August 9th. Also on the same arc and kind of in a parallel lane, we'll be working with our cities to at least draft, get a sense of what our expenditure plan priorities are going to be. And this isn't going to be the kind of exercise where the county is large and in charge. We're going to all be on a level playing field. So it's not the county's money, it's all of our money. We need to come up with methodology that we're all comfortable with and that our stakeholders can be comfortable with. The expenditure plan isn't due until at the earliest February 2025, but assuming BAFA passes in November 2024, we don't want to cram a whole bunch of work over the holidays into an accelerated process where we can't really engage with our stakeholders the way we would want to. So I envision this, and I've heard feedback from elected officials at several of the cities, as well as county elected officials, that a facilitated process would probably be more harmonizing. And the consultancy that I think would probably serve us best is actually BAFA's business plan advisory consultant. So they're brilliant. I've worked with them on the Red Housing Fund. They have a lot of experience in California, but also nationwide in helping shape business plans for this sort of thing. So I'm working on trying to raise some money so that the county has funding to fund the consultant without having to ask the cities to pitch in. So that's kind of early development.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I think Kevin's on the hook for this. I was just,
Did you mention how it's a parcel tax and how it's paid for?
I
mean,
okay.
Michelle.
Yeah, go ahead,
Sure.
Michelle. Yeah, talk about how this will be paid for.
Sure. So general obligation bonds are paid back through property taxes. This one is expected to, over the life of the issuance, expected to result in a property tax increase of a little over $10 per $100,000 of assessed value. So if you've got a $1 million house that actually is assessed at $1 million, it's about $100 a year bump on the property tax. We have a lot of people in this county that live in houses that if they were to sell today, might be worth $1 million, but their assessed value is considerably less. So that's an important thing to remind our stakeholders of, that it's based on assessed value, not necessarily the market value of your property.
And I have one more question before I open it up again, ask for follow-up questions from the public. I noticed on your 3 Ps, you have production, preservation, and protection, but one of the Ps is not planning. Do you think that falls under preservation or protections, or help with planning to identify, potential housing or changes in zoning for housing? Is that part of the consideration?
No, the enabling legislation didn't put planning under one of these 3 Ps, and there's not a 4th P.
Okay.
There is money for administration, but that's to, for the underwriting and legal services and the loan servicing and, the administration to get the money into projects and into vertical construction.
Okay, I felt I needed to ask that question. So anything else from staff or any comments from the public or questions for Michelle? No?
You?
Yeah, Becky, please, go ahead.
I'm
I'm assuming, Becky, that you know Michelle.
we haven't met in person, but I've seen you too.
And
You're friends of the city, both of you, so. Yeah. There you go.
Great.
finally,
I liked being a little ambiguous. Did I hear you correctly, Michelle, that the protection portion was 5% of the overall plan?
That's right. And in the slide deck, you'll see that protection has an asterisk next to it. And that's because currently state law doesn't allow general obligation bonds to be used for service related costs. The constitutional amendment that will be on the same ballot will have language enabling this particular general obligation bond to support things that aren't capital projects.
And could you speak to, or do you know how 5% was derived?
No, I don't.
It just seems like a low number to me.
It says greater than or equal to.
Greater than or equal to.
So I think
Okay.
it says, I guess that the way I view that, Michelle, is it sets a floor, meaning
Minimum.
That's right. And then we also have flexible funding at 28%. So depending on what the needs are in each of our municipalities or jurisdictions, we've got some flexible money, which is really, I think, one of the strengths of this particular bonds model.
So would that flexibility be at the county level or at the city level?
Well, we need to decide what our methodology is going to be. The flexibility, well, let's talk about methodology for a second, because we could do something as objective and simple as return to source. If the whatever your percentage generated in Cloverdale of the bond's value could just, go straight back to Cloverdale, or it could be but based on your percentage of the RENA obligations at the very low and extremely low income levels. Could be based on project readiness and or some mix of all of those methodologies. We're going to go through this process together of deciding what methodologies make the most sense in our jurisdictions. So the answer to your question, I think, is going to depend on getting a little bit further down the road on, what are our priorities going to be. But it won't be the county telling Cloverdale, here's what you're going to do with your money.
Yeah, that page 10 is pretty interesting because, yeah, and with that explanation, it kind of gets more interesting because we kind of do this, for instance, at SCTA all the time with our, with our transit and our road money. We might identify projects outside of, Cloverdale's jurisdiction as a priority. And then 5 years later, we might be a priority project because it sets up something else. So Healdsburg may say, we mostly hit our affordable, like just say Healdsburg hits their numbers. They may want to dedicate more of their money. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, they might want to do more toward tenant protections. And we might want to do more to a partnership with an affordable housing developer. Is that kind of correct, Michelle?
Absolutely. And I did just.
It may change over time because our priorities may be different over time.
That's right. And I think that that point underscores that I think as we go through the expenditure plan process, we want to make sure that it's flexible enough that as changes evolve, that we can easily adapt. If it's super prescriptive, it could be so prescriptive that we named the projects in it that we wanted to fund. But, and like I said, we'll go through this as a group, but leaving some wiggle room for changing ecosystem probably serve us well. And then I just threw this slide up to give you a sense of Cloverdale's population share. Cloverdale's percentage of the very low and low RENA obligations. And RENA for lay people in the room is Regional Housing Needs Assessment or allocation. So these are, some of the objective ideas for our methodology, but I think we'll want it to be more nuanced than that. And certainly consider project readiness as we go along. And it sounds like Cloverdale has, really unique kind of housing landscape that we'll want to make sure is honored.
It sounds like, Becky, you need to be included in some of those community.
As someone who had to leave her home because the county purchased the property, and not feeling there was consideration given to when you exit someone from a house versus when you say, oh, okay, I'm gonna put somebody in that house, right? Like my situation was that the rent that I was set at the time was well than less what the average rental, monthly costs were. And so, how did the county not know they were making someone potentially homeless to then house someone who is homeless? And just wanting to, highlight that I think, having that minimum of 5% sounds great, but then also, keeping people in their homes and helping them stay in their homes is really going to, I personally believe, help make a greater impact upstream than, just building a bunch of property.
Yeah, and actually I've had that discussion with Margaret and Rick at Reach for Help, is that might be something that's very different in North County, or it's probably the same around the county, but I know that people who work with unhoused folks, one of the things that is really under-resourced in the North County is homelessness prevention. And that's where I see a lot of, and that's why I'm gratified to see that this isn't all just, it's not all just investment in capital. There are some funds available from services as well. So that's gonna be an important part, I think, of the discussion of, as to how different regions and different cities, wanna see this, diced up. So, yeah, that answers a lot of questions, Michelle, thank you. Anybody else with any other questions? And Becky, I really hope you stay involved in the discussions going forward and watch for the public meetings. Any other questions? All right, with that, I'll say thank you. I'll let you go on to your next meeting.
Thanks,
I know
Michelle.
it's a very busy day. Thank you, Michelle. It was really nice to see you, even if it was just on Zoom.
Yeah, really great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for coming, Michelle, appreciate it.
Great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Take care.
Yes, so David, what is the next step that we want to see with this?
Well, I think we want to, we'll look at the board calendar and determine a date when to do a informational presentation to city council. I think, what some cities are doing is have staff take the lead on the presentation, though we're not the subject matter experts on the bill.
Right.
And so, we'll probably wanna ascertain if we can, like Michelle did today, find a date that we can
We can get
have
one
some of the
together.
professionals that have been working on this,
Sure.
to be able to make sure they answer some of the more challenging questions.
Sure.
There's some elements too, with the ballot measure, in terms of taking an advocacy role, it really has to be focused on voter education. Council can take a position as a council.
Right.
But so there's a nuance there as well. I think ultimately, if it gets approved, there will be a lot of conversation around what are the kind of program elements that we would want to see developed in Cloverdale, that can become part of the county program, assuming we think it'll be a county program or administered, but that still has to be answered. And do we want our focus, for example, to be I think first time home buyers? We could target a program where there's down payment assistance to qualifying families. Looking at that 80 to 120% of AMI. Our last time I checked, our area median income for a household in Cloverdale was around 104,000. So you figure you could qualify probably with a family income of 120,000. I bet there's folks in our community that meet that criteria and would like to be able to buy a home. It's just the down payment that it's so challenging to come up with in exchange for.
They're already paying the mortgage payment.
Yeah,
in
or more.
rent, or more in rent, but they don't have the down.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's a strategy to help move people into home ownership, but that's a policy conversation.
Right.
Versus funding, helping offset developers with their costs to bring affordable housing to the market. I think your question about what opportunities there are to preserve our mobile home parks. I think there's a lot of different scenarios there. Maybe there's a situation where you don't buy it outright, but you buy an easement that protects it at a lower cost that still benefits the property owner, but ensures that it's being. So there's a lot to come.
Lots of moving parts.
We don't want the allocation based on arena,
Yeah.
because like Healdsburg got dinged on arena for the equity piece, so they have more arena, so do they get more money because of that?
Right.
Just.
Yeah, but that's gonna be a wrestling match that, you're gonna have to handle for it. That's what I imagine you'd be taking that point. So any other, so we'll see this coming to council. Any other comments from the public or any questions? We just hope that your appetite is whetted and you will be part of the public conversation going forward, so. All right, so did that do it for E1? Let's just go through our standing items pretty quickly, and it's just.
We do have
I'm here for E2.
Oh, I keep doing that. It's my I swear, it is my glasses. It's like I can't
I
get used to this
understand.
thing. I can't get used to this thing and it loses focus. So I'll get my focus back on to E2, our healthy community project. Who's taking the lead on that?
Well, I'll start, Madam Chair. Actually, we put this under new business, I think, at our last meeting. yes, that remain under new business, rather than as a standing item, so we wanted to keep it here. But since the last meeting, of our Planning and Sustainability Subcommittee, which was on October 17th, there was the presentation immediately preceding that, on October 11th to the full council. Wherein a presentation from the collective of organizations that included the Healthcare Foundation of Sonoma County, Nuestra Comunidad, La Familia Sana, Outsider Valley Healthcare, and On the Margins, presented this project to council. There are kind of, I think it was, in terms of, it was almost submitted really as kind of a request to consider building a community project that would house a community center and provide for and support the needs of particularly our underserved community members. Came out of that request, or came out of that presentation, was a request for some of the background information that generated that discussion. And since that time, I did get a copy of a draft report that was provided by the group On the Margins, who were kind of retained to kind of do the report writing. And I have not gotten the final report, but I did forward that to council. And basically, in summary, what the report does is provide an overview of the data collection methods that were utilized, the survey, the focus groups, and the analysis that help form the foundation for the recommendations that were presented to council. That was a question that council had, was what was some of the underlying data that drove that recommendation. So that report is available, at least in draft form. I'm not sure if it's been finalized yet, but we could certainly, next agenda, I can check to see if it's been actually finalized, and we can put it on the agenda.
That would be great. Yeah, just so that we can, if anybody has any questions about the research methodology, which I looked pretty sound to me, especially considering who conducted it and how it was conducted. It was pretty statistically and we had a pretty good foundation, a pretty good operator. So
Right. That was Dr. Daniela Dominguez. She's an associate professor at University of San Francisco in the psychology department. That was, I think, kind of the final report preparer, and that was responsible for doing the survey work.
that would be great if we could get that in the hands of council. That had some questions about Dr. Dominguez. Becky, did you have anything to add?
Oh, well, I mean, so I just think that, as most of you know, and I'm sorry, we haven't met.
Dave.
Becky, Dave. Nice to meet you. I wear multiple hats, and when I saw that this item was on the agenda this afternoon, wanted to kind of sit in and listen. As a board member for La Familia Sana, very much interested in the project that was presented. But I also wanted to remind city that, this is two very empirically sound universities and research projects. Also the social cohesion survey that Resilient Cloverdale and San Francisco State participated in over the past couple of years. Really digging into your community here and getting down into some nitty gritty that I can just assure you is not happening in other municipalities. So to really utilize all of this data that's at your fingertips to make really great decisions would be amazing. But also wearing my Resilient Cloverdale hat, that is definitely a community group that is very much invested in the community at large. And I don't want to be a spoiler alert to the award that we got, but there's that coming as well. And then of course, as my mental health hat, with SOS Community Counseling, this is all very much tied in, right? Like housing and being able to live and to know that you have housing security and to have nature and your ponds and this is all very much integrated work. And so I just applaud you for taking it all on in this little subcommittee.
And our little corner.
Yeah.
We're gonna save the ducks and save the people.
And now I'm sorry.
And now, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming
Yeah.
and giving us that information
And
and.
I will be at the next meeting for sure. It's my
Awesome.
alma mater.
Any other comments on this? Great, well, we'll look forward to getting the full report and the supporting data. Yeah, I thought it was when we received the presentation, I thought it seemed very consistent with the anecdotal information that I get from folks, and they backed it up with some very good science and some solid research. So I look forward to getting more information on that. Anything else on that? Okay, now we'll move on past E, and also the way that we do the supplemental attachments, it also screws me up, not just that, my glasses too. It's this. On F and standing items, do we want to just go through one by one under planning?
Yeah, it's your pleasure.
Great.
I just want to point out what our city clerk has done with relative to the agenda is, we have many of our subcommittees have large number of standing items, and so
I love the headings.
yeah, trying to create the kind of the subheadings of topics. And Chair, you feel welcome if you think
That's
you
a
want to move things around.
no,
But
much better way to organize it. Thanks,
we-
Mike, for that.
we're trying to organize.
We're trying to stay organized here.
Because some things kind of come up together or can be addressed
Exactly,
concurrently. So.
exactly. So we'll start F1, community development log. What do we have?
No, there's really no new applications, we're just working through
Yeah, new
that.
apps, great. We'll move, and then actually maybe at the end, if there are questions, we can.
Well, I just want, the Ossity Road Apartments is now seem to have its funding and is
Okay.
seeking building permits.
Great, okay. And item 2, annexation, 6-acre water and South Cloverdale Water Company.
Yeah, well, I'll just touch on 6 acres. The design engineers that have been procured by the state, which is GHD Engineering, has just completed 60% design drawings for both sewer and or water and wastewater improvements. So the improvement planning process is moving forward, and we're actively participating. Our city engineer has been very active in reviewing the plans and commenting and trying to make sure that the city's interests are addressed in that process. It is a challenging process. The states, because they are funding the water improvements, are seeking ways to minimize their costs, and we're seeking ways to ensure that our standards are met. So sometimes there's some challenges and that we have to work through in terms of the design, but that's ongoing and it's moving forward. We will be bringing the final annexation agreement forward in the near future, probably in February, for council support. And once council considers that, and assuming they support the final annexation agreement, staff will submit that project area to the local agency formation commissioner, LAFCO, for a consideration of formal annexation. South Cloverdale is just much earlier in the design phase, and they tried to move them concurrently, but I think there was just not enough pre-work done to enable that, and it's actually a little more complicated. So there's quite a bit of discussion on South Cloverdale Water Company about the state wanting the city to be the lead on the funding applications, and so we're currently in the conversations with state representatives at state funding agencies on how that's going to be handled. So we'll have more to report as we work through that process.
Fabulous. Yeah.
A lot of work.
No, it's okay. Well, go on to urban growth boundary. We talked a little bit about that earlier today, but
Yeah.
So we continue. Council gave us direction to really hone in on the portion of the UGB between kind of Porterfield and the kind of the north end of town. And we continue to evaluate that.
That's a big area, by the way.
It is,
Yeah.
and,
It's big.
you know,
Yeah.
there's some things we need to, you know, obviously, we're the property owners for now 2 large properties, Porterfield Creek Open Space and Lido Ranch. And, you know, there's an interest in bringing those formally into the city. But how we do that and how it involves other property owners is still a work in progress. So we're continuing to work with the various property owners to bring forward something that's gonna be we think feasible, and ultimately, you know, it will require us to craft a ballot measure for the council's consideration.
Okay. We'll just move on to, we'll just move through these pretty quickly and then any questions. Housing element,
Adopted,
I think we're good.
doing implementation.
Want to maybe remove that, so we're
Yeah,
done for now?
Mike, can we take F4 off?
Yep. And then update on design standards?
No update, I know Rob's still working through it and
Okay.
looking at examples from other cities, so we'll have something.
We'll have something at the next meeting. Countywide flood master plan.
Yeah, so the Sonoma Water is currently has established a planning process to develop a countywide flood master plan. We have been tracking that process. There's a fairly significant meeting coming up on Monday, January 8th. At Zero Water, where it's going to be a little bit of more of a deep dive with Sonoma Water on this planning effort. So far, they've been focusing on kind of the background and bringing all city staff and interested stakeholders up to speed on you know, what's entailed in managing our reservoirs, the process for that. As well as the work that Sonoma Water is doing, which is really cutting edge on working with scripts on some of the advanced modeling that they're using for weather forecasting. And again, that's all part of what they call their FERO program, Forecast Informed Reservoir Operations. And so that all ties into the flood risk management assessment, and all feeding into it. So they're still right smack in the beginning of this effort, and we're participating. I know we missed the very first meeting, only because they scheduling on Mondays at 8:30, which corresponds with our city staff, but we're coordinating internally on how we're gonna handle this next meeting.
All right,
you
you
gotta
gotta be there.
Yeah, it's an
Somebody's gotta
important
be
one.
Is that gonna be Derek or who are you gonna?
Well, right now, it's been West Yost,
so-
myself,
Okay.
and Derek, and you know, there's multiple components to it, so we've been tackling it as a team, and we're gonna, you know, as things kind of settle out, we'll figure out who's doing what, and what's required. I think, you know, there's a real interest, obviously, in terms of, you know, enhanced river management, I think, and you know, I haven't seen that topic specifically come up yet, but I suspect it will.
You got that?
Yeah, river much.
All right. Anything else on that? That's, I guess, more coming on.
Yeah, more to come after
More
the
to come.
January meeting. And
Sounds like fun staff time, okay. Update on SB 852,
No, no real updates on,
no,
yeah.
no one has it because
No one's done
nobody knows what the bill means yet. Yeah, it's great.
Waiting for that first city
Waiting for somebody
to do it.
I'm trying to push I'm pushing for, like, why should Sonoma County be the first on that, but we'll see. I don't think so.
Special district, yeah.
Special district, we'll see what happens, okay. And then on transportation, update on the ride program, there's not anything. new on
No
that.
updates this
Or kind of-
juncture. I think we did, okay with you, Madam Chair, kind of handle F8 and F9 together,
Sure.
the active transportation plan.
Yes,
Staff did meet with the SCTA, Sonoma County Transportation Authority team, and their consultant that's leading up the update of the active transportation. We met right here in the conference room, reviewed our bicycle plans, our street improvement plans to look at how we can support additional active transportation within our city. And as part of that, we raised the topic that there's a tremendous need for improved transit transportation services, particularly for our seniors. And so to the extent that a program could be developed, if it's either part of the active transportation program, which tends to be focused kind of on more local improvements, but to also come with it with programs that, you know, support residents' mobility, that, you know, we view that as a real opportunity. So I think they listened and they heard us. And the other component that they were doing their kind of their data gathering was they put out a survey. We had promoted that survey in our newsletter for, gosh, several months. The intent was to compile the survey results actually kind of mid-December and have those available for the beginning of early January. So at this point, we're kind of just waiting to see what the survey results, and I suspect that those will be presented out through the SCTA board, through the SCTA TAC meeting, the Bike and Ped committee, and we have planning staff that are participating on the Bike and Ped. We have public works staff that are on the TAP committee with our city engineer, and then obviously we have Madam Chair, you as our board representative. So we're just kind of at this point making sure that we respond to any data needs to help inform the plan, but their team is off working on a draft plan, and I think we'll take into consideration the survey work that you know we tried to do our best to make sure Cloverdale was represented in terms of their input on that survey by promoting it heavily.
And just as a way of following up, I know this is something that I worked on with Linda and folks at the senior center. And what I made it very clear to the board what our needs are, and you know where the gaps in transportation are for our seniors. And we are not the only city in Sonoma County. West County has a dire need, and our neighboring county, Mendocino, and another county that's very similar to us, Solano County, they're kicking our butts on service for seniors. And so I've kind of been waiting as James has been taking on the reins at Sonoma County Transportation Authority. He's the new, you know, the new executive director, and giving him some time to adjust, and also knowing that this survey was out there in the wild and will be coming back, and hopefully, you know, a lot of our seniors responded and called out that dire need for improved services for our senior population, and just for our aging population. You know, it's not just people who are 65 and over who are having trouble driving at night. So, but also, you know, there's just there are other counties that are in our immediate vicinities that are doing connectivity really well, and we're seeing progress in that with the new Amtrak service. They're really promoting the city-to-city bus travel and connecting to the national rail network. We're seeing, you know, SMART, it's coming to Windsor. We have the funding for the SMART, for the bridge at Healdsburg. That's happening. We have new activity and a drive for seeing a station come to Geyserville. So each one of those pieces gets SMART closer to Cloverdale. But at the same time, I don't want to take the pressure off SCTA for them to understand that our needs just are not being met. And I think that Sonoma County's been leaving transit money on the table, you know, for a while, and we need to make sure that we get those services here. So I've kind of given them some time to adjust, but also letting them know that we're not really taking our foot off of the gas for getting what we need for our residents. So we'll just keep at it. Keep it on. If we can keep that on the agenda, just as a reminder to keep after it.
Here's my anecdote. Just I'm a widow and I live by my pond, which you know I love. And the pond is the whole reason why I moved to Cloverdale 7 years ago, turns out. But if I lose my license, I will have to move out of Cloverdale, which I love, and my house, which I love, because I can't get anywhere.
Can't get anywhere right now. Yeah.
The bus stop is way down the hill, you know, you can't carry groceries. You know, there's only one geezer day a week, you know, you have to get a whole bug.
Oh, your senior discount day.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them to ask me if I'm really getting close. I've heard it called geezer day before. I remember that.
I don't like it is.
Yeah, but I think that it's, you know, you're one of the people who shared your story. Several folks in town have shared their stories. Did you have anything to add, Dave, about? Yeah.
Twice now, the word senior has come up and both you guys have looked immediately.
Yeah, myself.
Yeah,
We've gotten
there we go.
close, so I'm getting close.
I think that's a very critical element to a vibrant community is to have that transportation really cover the broad range of you know, age demographic and also wealth and lack thereof. So it sounds like we're moving west.
We're trying, we're slowly, we're gonna cover, sometimes it feels like we're in a covered wagon. And it's an episode of 1883.
Yeah.
But anyway, anything else on that?
Well, and just on the active transportation plan, we did do an article about the planning process in the Cloverdale Connect. Just really trying to highlight for the community, you know, what the active transportation plan is, along with our effort to update the circulation element of our general plan. So, you know, we tried to do our best to bring attention to this effort because we view it as vitally important for trying to get funding to do some of the project work that, you know, there's a lot of data around that. You know, some of these improvements are promote bicycle safety, you know, increase use of alternative transportation methods, reduce fatalities, you know, all the kind of the good stuff in the around transportation. So we try to, again, do our part to promote these planning efforts.
Yeah, it's kind of an example of the fact that we can't talk about our land acquisition without talking about our parks, without talking about connectivity, without talking about dedicated bike lanes and pedestrian safety.
Yeah.
Because what those open spaces really represent are an off-street way for kids and adults to get to locations throughout the city. And you can't talk about, you know, you can't talk about one without talking about the other. I just really see them as so interconnected.
Right.
And at the same time, it's like, I want everybody to be able to get to, you know, the activities, like the ones to be able to safely get to pickleball and safely get to the grocery store and safely get to all these places. But I also know that, you know, for essential services, whether you're a senior or a little kid, you got to get to the doctor's office or you got to get to the dentist office in Healdsburg or Santa Rosa. And that's where the transportation, that's where, you know, we are dependent on Route 60, which is the most, as I say this, I feel like every meeting, it is the most utilized inner city route and in Sonoma County Transit's system. And it is for a reason, because we depend on it.
Yeah.
But it's the only option, and it's not enough. It's not adequate. It's not servicing the people who really who need to be able to. I think that going to a show at Luther Burbank is as important as going to the doctor. I think going to meet friends at your, it's part of mental health, and it's part of being, you know, part of our greater community. And it's not meeting our needs right now. And so, you know, that's why I just want to keep it on the agenda and keep plugging away.
We see a lot of students here at the plaza every morning waiting for the bus to go to school.
Yeah.
To go to the junior college. I've talked to a few students.
My friend's daughter, my friend's daughter did that she would carpool part of the time and then she took the 60 back and forth when her schedule didn't line up with her friends coming back from the JC. And our kids in Cloverdale who are taking AP classes, their version of AP classes at the JC, they depend on that service. There are people going to Sonoma State as well, so we need to really let our policymakers know, let people know at SCTA how vital that connection is, and we need more frequency. If we have more frequency, more people will be utilizing it. So let's keep plugging away.
And that's a good point, again, to Jim Collins,
Yeah.
that's the consideration for a grandkid coming over here
Yeah.
to live with us, so she can attend junior college, and so if that doesn't work, we're off the hook.
There you go. So in other words, all the crappy service we have. Okay. Gotcha. I heard you loud and clear.
Not so good.
No, that JC connection from roots, and it takes, and it's, I would also say at every meeting, it takes 1 hour and 30 minutes to get from here to the transit plaza in Santa Rosa. It's slightly short of the JC, but that's 90 minutes. That's an hour and a half each way. And I've done it several times, and just to remind myself of how bad it is. And to keep plugging away on it, because it's just not acceptable. So, anything else on that item? I guess we'll just keep, James Cameron, watch out, we're gonna keep working on it. Now that the honeymoon's over, right? Okay, let's move on to recreate, the fun stuff. I love that you saved the best for last, Mike. So recreation programming, item 10.
Well, we have the software up and running, and
Oh, great.
we have an agreement that the council approved, so we're just. Need to get some instructors, get some space for them to work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instructors in space. All right, we'll put that on the to-do list for 2024. Art program.
Though the software is available, it's not live online yet. Just wanted to stipulate that if any members of the public see this, we're not gonna
No classes, no instructors.
we're not gonna put it live until we have some activities on. But it is.
Maybe we get a pickleball class going in January. I think we know somebody who would probably teach that, so.
And I do want to acknowledge the team. They reached out to the senior center because the senior center offers a lot of programming. And increasingly the programming is utilizing the park. And we want as much as possible to bring that programming into into the rec program, one to formally schedule the park, those dates and times, but also to collaborate and work on I think it can help serve the senior center in terms of we could be fiscal agent basically for the fees and the administration and the instructors. So our view, I think, is that's what you see in other cities where they have comprehensive programs and serves all demographic groups. And it makes sense to bring that in and then hopefully it's a win-win in terms of the scheduling to help out Hector, so he knows when to.
But like David mentioned, it's already happening.
Yeah.
The class is already happening in our parks. We just need to find, now with the new software that we purchased, we just bring them in.
It's nice. Let's don't mess with those Tai Chi people.
Yeah, no.
They're all set.
Yeah, they have long fault, yeah, so.
Yeah, watch out.
We got a lot of positive stuff, a lot of positive stuff in the parks. We got the new park, we got the pickleball court not too long ago. We got the new restrooms, we got the new basketball court. And we're about to be finished. Javier and Miguel are out there right now, so doing the final touches on the dog park.
Oh, God. it looks
So they're
fantastic.
hoping that we have a tentative date for a grand opening, so. A lot of stuff, there's a lot of projects happening in the parks department. We're getting a lot of them done, so all this stuff, all those projects are gonna be bring nothing but more recreational activities for the community.
So like the day after Thanksgiving, we walked over to City Park and like everything was being used. Everything was being used. There was like this volleyball game. It was like 6-on-6 volleyball game. And I was just like, and I played volleyball and I was like a pretty solid B player. I was just like, those guys are really good.
It's so popular volleyball.
Well, it's California. So
Yeah.
I have to explain this. But no, that was going on. All the barbecues there was a birthday going on. The scout had been open, there would have been something going on. There were people there were kids practicing in the baseball field. I mean, it was like an advertisement.
Yeah.
It's like how used that park is. And I bet if we had gone to, Ferber And, some of it would have been the same scene,
Yeah.
because the weather was so nice.
We had the new employee Bree about the chamber she created a really nice video in City Park and everything, all the recreation activities you just mentioned.
Oh, and people.
She captured that on the
It's just like, you gotta be kidding me.
I was in that video, Mike, I think we were talking about putting it up there, because that video that she created, they're playing pickleball, they're playing basketball, they're barbecuing, there's a couple kids going around the trail, they're playing soccer, everything was going on.
Everything was going
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, it was the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was kids playing in the playground, there was playing frisbee, I mean, everything.
It was crazy.
It's like somebody planned that,
It
you
was-
do that, you do this, and all that.
It was like people would like, are you guys extras that are being paid?
Yeah,
It was
that's-
like-
And that's pretty much when we have nice weather, that's, especially in the summertime, or even in springtime, or on the weekend, that's normal now, that's the new normal.
Yeah,
I've been here with the city almost 15 years in this, and the last 2 or 3 years, I would say. The attendance, the number of visitors that we see on a daily basis, just quadruple.
Yeah.
So it's good to see.
yeah, it's really fun to see,
Yeah.
but it's like, it was like, are you guys extras?
And that's the reason why they just talk about the scheduling, get this Parks and Rec, so we can sneak in and go to meetings. All right, we got an hour.
Otherwise, there could be, there are gonna be conflicts, and that people are not gonna be happy, so.
Yeah, so that's very important to get
So,
those.
yeah, good job, and I mean, I know what it is like to stand up an application like that, Mike, and, yeah, great, we need it, so looking forward to using it in 2024,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it'd be really cool.
So, good stuff.
All right, good progress. Actually, you probably have a 2023 accomplishment list, actually. We're probably gonna have that.
I know the parks and, David and Kevin, we have. Is the Lord.
I think that the community and the council would really like that. I think you should do that in the January meeting, is just like lay out everything that you did in 2023 for, you don't have to limit it to parks, but it's like, there are a lot of accomplishments to be proud of, so.
It's
hard to remember all of it.
Well, and then I, publish it in Cloverdale Connect just to let people know. It's like, well, if you're wondering what we've been doing.
Yeah, and it's all this progress we completed, it just took a team effort, everybody had something to do with it.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm talking pretty much every city employee, so.
Yeah.
So we all have to do something to help each other and get those projects.
I think, like I said to Shauna at SCT at the last meeting, because they totally redid it's a kind of a similar situation. They totally had to redo the dashboard and how they report on Go Sonoma, because it's after the tax renewal, you had Measure M.
Yeah.
And then you had to be completely retooled into a new report.
Yeah.
And I said, and she basically gave a movie credit. I said, thanks for giving us the movie credits, because she was like, that person did this, and that's that one did this, and they did this, and it took a real team effort, and that's what we do all the time, so.
Right, no, it does make a difference when everybody helps out.
Yeah,
Well, the other thing, having that kind of a celebratory end of your report. There's also, you could even tie it to, there are maybe just a couple of things, but I just happened to be at one of the meetings when the guy did the first presentation for the pickleball court. And he came in fully prepared, it was
Right.
great, it was well presented, he had an idea about where it could go and what it would take.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing, and so to say we did this and it was brought to our attention as an idea by a member of the
community, yeah.
community. Same thing with the dog park, the community's been asking, so then in that way, it shows how responsive you are, not just that you're productive, but responsive.
Oh, Brad is great, Brad Horrible, he's great.
Yeah.
It all started.
we have a pickleball instructor, it's all I'm saying.
That's, he does it, and Melissa Cox, who does it, for free.
David's getting pretty good at the pickleball.
Yeah, he's-
So, maybe he's a good city manager.
He's out secretly playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first met Brad, when we first met Brad, the very first time, we literally took a pencil and a piece of paper. And
Draw it out.
Here, we're gonna do this.
Here.
Done.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think the 2023 just was really impressive for the amount of work that was put on, so I'd like.
Thanks for saying that.
I'd like to
Thank
see
you,
that.
Melanie, that's very nice.
There you go. Oh, do we have anything on art program?
Yeah, so I can just give you a quick, I'm planning to bring it to council. I went back and reviewed the meeting that our last planning sustainability got the direction. I'm changing it based on that, and I'm gonna bring it to the city council.
And then it's kind of what pushed that is, I think it sounds like, Masonic got their funding for their mural, and so it's like,
They did.
it's one of these things. It's
Yeah.
kind of, let's see if we can get the policy can stay ahead of the implementations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not always.
Not always. And then, Great River Trail, I don't have that much, other than we did hire the new, executive director, and she has started, and I think I'll meet her. Actually, I've met her before, when you guys might have met her before, she's actually a former council member from Blue Lake. And,
Blue Lake?
yeah, I know, like,
It's
and there, it's the city, it's not Blue Lakes, it's Blue Lake,
Oh.
yeah,
I know,
and it's
city.
Humboldt, it is.
It's one of those nice.
Yeah, good question.
Humboldt County, I don't know.
It's Humboldt,
Is
yeah,
it Humboldt?
yeah, it's Humboldt, it's tiny, but it's, yeah, it's actually. So, yeah, so she started, and, I'm gonna meet with her and try to actually kind of have her come down here and just kind of view, the smart, where, you know, the Astor Road, the River Park. I might invite, we'll see if she, you know, it's early days, but see if she wants to come down and get a little mini tour of the area where we transitioned from. Cause Smart has jurisdiction up through Sonoma County to, Mendocino. And then that's where Great River Trail their jurisdiction actually will take over. And that we actually have some additional rail banking that needs to be done on the way to Hopland, from between here and Hopland. And so it may be hot or cold, you know, depending on what the timing is on that, but we need your help with that. So, I don't want to take her through the tunnel, but you know.
We're gonna go around the time.
No, and I think that Karen Gears, just, well, why would you do that when you can take the river trail, which is existing? I was like, that's why you have this job. That's why you are acting executive director.
Right.
So, yeah, so just kind of show her that and just kind of get her familiar with the lay of the land. We might be getting a call on that. That's all I've got to report on that. And regulation size pool, I know we're
This
on our list.
This was sent to, and it was agendized on the joint city school subcommittee. I remember the request was to refer it there, so
Okay.
I don't know if you want us to keep it as a holder or.
You know, keep it as a holder for now until we
Okay.
kind of get some information back, and if they would be willing to, you know, work on a project jointly with the city. Anything else under recreation, anybody wants to add?
Well, just to share that we are getting close to completing construction of the dog park. The elements that remain include signage, water fountain, and
I love
Looks
it.
nice.
what else, Hector? Water fountain, signage,
Signage is.
and
It looks good.
receptacles, and those are all in process. The target date for a grand opening is the last Saturday in January.
28.
28.
And we'll be coordinating with Smart to ensure that they're apprised as the property owner, and you know, they license the property to us.
Yeah.
Did have a text conversation with Joanne Parker.
Yeah.
About that. And, we'll definitely acknowledge Smart, as well as Sonoma County Department of Infrastructure. Johannes, the director, has been particularly collaborative. He's made a number of improvements within the parking area in terms of striping, improving the lighting.
He was great.
Through there, and it was just like, what is this? I can see the lines.
Yeah. They didn't have all the lines, they worked on the lights.
Oh, they did.
Replaced a lot of lights. They did a lot of work.
Yeah.
And, I actually just got off the phone with Johannes when I came to the meeting. He wants to, you know, he loves flying his drone.
Yes, he loves.
So he wants to fly when we have the grand opening. He wants to fly his drone. So I said, I'll bring it up. Yes, he wants to create. Just to make a short video.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Put it out there, so, he said, yeah, I said, I'll bring it to David and Kevin.
Okay.
He's been helpful, he's very helpful.
Oh, he's just so helpful.
Yeah, so we got, like David mentioned, we just got a few things we gotta do to complete the project. We got some benches that we gotta install, we got.
Are those the
receptacles.
surplus benches?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's a combination of both.
Okay.
We had two new ones that we had hidden in the back. We didn't tell anybody about for the last 3 years. And then they're wood, they're just like the ones so we're gonna put those in, and then we're gonna Javier and Miguel have been working refurbishing the other ones.
Okay.
And then we got, a doggy receptacle that we're gonna bring in, and some recycle and garbage receptacle that we're gonna install. And then the drinking fountain, everything's there, which is, I've been kind of waiting on the drinking fountain because the plumbing, everything's bad there. So, it's such a nice fountain, we wanted to wait for like a nice day to install it, so. Yeah, knock on wood, I'm hoping that, hopefully next week, the latest, the following week will be done.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great day.
The rain.
The rains,
It's hard to keep you folks out already.
yeah,
They wanna go, I let, if we're there working, they go ahead and let the dog run, and I guess it's everything, as far as like the dog run, it's completed.
yeah.
All the trees are installed. So they,
No, Cloverdale Nursery gave you a really nice shout out on Facebook.
Yeah, because what do I need to do to get on the, and I said,
Five trees.
you can go to there, I think Marley,
Mhm.
the name of the puppy.
Mhm.
Well, so Marley went in there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Well,
We could probably
yeah,
remove the caution tape at this point.
yeah, it's great, we just have a couple things we gotta do.
Yeah.
But,
oh, that's great.
it's-
So it's had a soft opening.
Yes, it is, and this side is this is the main sign. We're gonna have two computers.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's really-
David, this is David, idea there to have the dog silhouette there, which is great.
That was a great idea. Yeah, well,
it's,
the lab is what, it's the most, it's probably
Yeah.
one of the most popular dogs right
yeah,
now.
that's great, yeah.
So, no poodles, I see.
Yeah, and we're gonna have, and we're gonna have some signage, off the freeway
Mhm.
with some arrow pointing that
Directional signage.
direction, on both sides. So we'll have-
There's so many people who travel with their dogs.
Yeah.
It really is.
All part this way.
It's
Stand in
a
the
thing.
pole or.
It's time, pull over, get a coffee,
Yeah.
coffee, dog, yeah, exactly. I was thinking that when we get the train there.
Yeah.
We have coffee carts. that can come and bring it.
You should all park this way.
I think the downtown sign.
Yeah, Jane on town, coffee that way, yeah. No,
Get a food truck for the grand
get a
opening.
food truck.
We need to, yeah. we need to food truck.
That's a great idea.
Tell your other idea, actor, about bringing that.
Oh, that was just something I threw out there, we don't have to, but I figure, there's people that don't have, now with such a nice park, that might want a puppy. So I was thinking of, maybe the phone calls,
Humane Society.
Yeah.
maybe just have a couple of dogs out there.
There's actually, according to,
That would be awesome.
yeah, for like who works at Animal Services, unfortunately, there are, COVID. People who got dogs during COVID are taking them back to the pound and surrendering them.
Oh, good.
And so there actually is a real need for
Good
foster
idea.
foster parents and for foster homes and for readopting. They're apparently they're at capacity. So that
Which
if we
one is
could,
that? Guilford or?
Santa Rosa, the Sonoma County Animal Control. So unfortunately, yeah, that one of the big pushes during COVID was I have a puppy, now I need a dog park.
All the shelters are empty, look.
Welcome, welcome to our world, but there actually really is a need to do outreach to the community and let them know that there's a real need. For adoption, for people who to adopt dogs.
My neighbor, the person around, my neighbor, they got COVID,
Mm,
and we had to watch a dog, it's like a poodle mix. And we had to watch
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just so we could.
because they need exercise. so,
Exercise, and
yeah.
they love it with my dog, with my kids and
Yeah.
stuff, they got plenty extra.
Didn't like
Yeah.
home.
Oh, I got
No,
it.
they didn't,
They're like,
yeah. Who's sleeping with them there? No.
But see, I think that it's a great idea though, as far, as part of, not necessarily part of the rec program, but part of the city policies that we do have it, because we have the road, we have parking. And we have the dog park is
I
that,
figured just for that one day, it'd be nice, so maybe a couple of those puppies can get adopted, it'd be great.
there you go,
This-
that's a great idea. See what we can do. Anything else on recreation? With that, future agenda items, I did have an item I wanted to let staff know about, I can bring up. Just under future agenda items, I wanted to let city manager and actually Susie know, I had a conversation with Cal City's new environmental quality lobbyist, Melissa Sparks Kranz, and I got her email address if you'd like it. When I was at the league leaders meeting, we were, talking about our concerns about the state water conservation goals and how they could impact our water revenues, how they are going to impact our water revenues. So she after I talked with her earlier this week, she suggested, she asked if, she could talk to our finance director and or city manager Kelly to better understand how this is gonna impact small cities that operate, urban water. What are they called? Urban water system, there's a word for it, there's a term for urban water provider, something, anyway, it's a thing. And then I'd also talked with her about the implications of the region, about the decommissioning of Potter Valley project. How it was going to, impact, water in our area. She's also going to be speaking at a future Redwood Division meeting. And I thought that, City Manager Kelly could probably give her some insight into, how those issues are gonna impact cities in both the eel and the, not less the eel, but more the Russian side of the basin. Yeah. She also, one of the things I pushed with her and at the recent Cal Cities meeting is they're gonna be bringing on a new housing lobbyist because Jason Ryan has been promoted to lead policy director at Cal City. So Jason's gonna be, they're hiring a new housing specialist. But I really talked with Melissa about the water housing nexus. And how, we've got water curtailment, how it's going to affect our water fund, and then also our, housing requirements that are handed down by HCD. And there doesn't seem to be a lot, one silo is not talking to the other. And if we could do some lobbying at the state level, we're not the only city, we're not the only city in California that's kind of impacted by those two things that kind of push and pull on each other. So if you could make some time to kind of let her know what's going on with us, it's, we don't operate in a bubble. Lots of other cities are going through similar things. So that was my only thing I wanted to give you a heads up on. And then economic development plan for 2024. David, did you have anything?
I didn't, I think this was,
That kind of leads into
was the topic that was
issue. Yeah.
was brought up, just in the context of planning and, so much is tied or connected to, as the theme today is interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Everything we do, it requires funding in some regards, and we looking at the foreseeable future, we're not seeing significant increases in our revenue, but we do see costs going up. So part of the solution is to start looking at opportunities for economic development to support and build our revenue base to help fund the things that our community wants and needs. So this was kind of a placeholder. This is something we didn't talk about what's the implementation pathway here, but I think it just was it captured the interest that this is something we need to kind of develop as an economic development plan. So we weren't necessarily going to talk about it in any detail other than to put it on as a future agenda item, and it's a placeholder for a conversation to have, and maybe this is something we take up with the full council about how do we want to develop some city initiatives around this. What does that entail?
Great. If we want to move, we can move it off of here and take it to the full council. I think that would be appropriate, especially in light of the housing bond information that we got today. The urban growth boundary issues that we're talking about, expanding, possibly expanding, our reach into properties that we want to protect, things like that. So, and I think that also with the budget workshop that's going to be coming up, it would be a good time to have that discussion. So we can probably take it off of here and push it onto the full council.
Got it.
Anything else for good of the order besides Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and happy all the holidays. Yeah. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you to the staff for all the hard work and also members of the community who come and make they're the reason we're here. It's to serve. So thank you. Thank you guys for your service. We appreciate you. And thank you, Mike, and your
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, you out there?
Out there.
We appreciate you. All right, everybody, have a happy new year. We'll see you in 2024.
You're-
It's adjourned.